Tell me
for all
about
that.
George Jones, one of my heroes, George Jones.
Yeah, one of mine too. I mean, if you're a country music fan, how can you not be a fan of George Jones? You know, it's pretty much impossible. I just saw a T-shirt, a George Jones T-shirt on social media. It's like old school. It's like a picture of him kind of with his leg up, and he's got his elbow on his leg, kind of like this. Yeah, like this.
Hello, fool, in my mirror. Hey, how you doing, everybody? Welcome to the UK Americana Bar Show. Thank you for joining us. George Ducas, we just interviewed on a Zoom call from California, telling us all about his new album, The Long Way Home. Absolutely fantastic. You're going to love it. He also told us about some of the people that he worked with, like Garth Brooks, The Chicks, Alan Jackson, George Jones. Absolutely incredible. Part 1, George Ducas. Check it out. As I say, George, you know, we don't normally have handsome people that are more handsomer than the host on the show. So, you know, you're lucky to, you know. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the UK Americana Bar Show. It's not every day we have a country music legend on the show, but ladies and gentlemen, Mr. George Ducas. How you doing, George?
Hello, Sam. It's a pleasure, my friend. Pleasure and an honor to be with you.
Hey, thank you for taking the time.
And I
Really
appreciate that kind introduction. I don't know. I think the word legend gets thrown around a little bit loosely these days, but I appreciate it.
Hey, modern day, you know, people like you are legends. I mean, look, look at what you've done. Garth Brooks and Willie Nelson. You just had one of your old songs revamped. Got a great album out. You're going, hello, fool, in my mirror.
Goodbye, love. What's
there you
so
go.
true?
Album is fantastic. So look, I've got loads to ask you. I'm going to be your bio. I'm going to think, oh, I've got to want to ask him this, want to ask him that, but it's just too much. George,
Fire away. Let's fire away.
Is it true?
Ask anything.
You wrote your first hit record when you was 11. Is that true?
Not exactly. I wrote my first song when I was 11.
Oh, okay.
It was not a hit record, except in my own house for my parents. So I was listening to a lot of Willie Nelson records at the time.
Yeah.
That's what my parents listened to growing up, and that's what was around the house. That and old blues records, guys like Muddy Waters and John Lee Hooker, and
wow.
And then there was the Willie Nelson records and the Outlaws, you know, Willie and Waylon.
Yeah, cool.
The country stuff that was around the house, a little bit of Merle
He was a
Haggard.
big influence, wasn't he, Willie Nelson, to you?
What's that?
Willie Nelson was a big influence to you, wasn't he?
He was. So the first sort of songs I learned on the guitar and even vocally, I learned to really emulate a lot of his style, and became sort of, you know, when you're that age, you're a sponge. You know, you're just learning, and so my parents would have friends over for dinner and tell me, "Hey, George, go get your guitar and do your Willie Nelson impression for our guest." You know, like, so that's kind of that was my early days of performing. Like, and the first song I wrote was called "Women and Whiskey."
I was just about to say, didn't your mother and your sister discover this talent and got you to? I mean, it wasn't obviously the title of the song for "Women and Whiskey" for your mother and your sister, was it?
Well, it's funny that an 11-year-old would write a song with that title. But I was just pulling from, you know, all of the topics that Willie Nelson records were about. You know, all of his songwriting topics, and kind of going off of that. So
was that in? So you're from Texas originally, but then you moved to California, Los Angeles. Is that right?
Yes, Southern California. Like my parents. I was born in Texas and was there for 5 or 6 years, and then my parents divorced, and my mother moved me and my sister both out to Southern California and spent the next 5 or 6 years there, and then bounced back to Texas to live with my dad. So I was kind of back and forth a little bit. So both coasts, the West Coast and, you know, the Texas coast. And so I think it's odd in a way that musically, I'm kind of drawn to both of those coasts too. You know, Bakersfield, the California country, and even California country rock scene. You know, like I would put like Jackson Browne, Running on Empty, or the Eagles into that country rock,
Absolutely.
California scene. The rock scene, Tom Petty, I put him in that, and another big influence on me. And then there's the Texas side of the singer-songwriters, like Willie Nelson and others.
Honky tonk in this new album, which we'll come on to. But how did you arrive at Nashville eventually?
Well, I mean, it's just the business is centered there, or was.
Yeah.
I mean, still is. But, you know, when you're first breaking into it, the songwriting community there is wonderful. It's really probably the best songwriting town in the world. And, and in many respects, certainly historically. Yeah. Stylistically, what they're doing now in Nashville isn't what I do. But when I first got there as a kid, a teenager, you know, in the early 90s, I was, you know, it was exactly what I was doing, you know, and so it not all of it, but, you know, it had room for me. Exciting time in Nashville because there was a neo-traditional movement going on in Nashville that was started by guys like Randy Travis in the 80s, guys like you name it, Clint Black, even Garth Brooks. The early stuff was very traditional and was neo-traditional, as they called it, and I was in that, you know, kind of in that vein, a little bit more honky-tonk than all those guys. But Alan Jackson, another one. In fact, my first several shows as a national artist I was opening shows for Alan Jackson. So it was a good time to be there, and, you know, and the music business is centered there. So as a writer, it was good too, because all the publishing companies are there.
You went on to write for people like Garth Brooks and Alan Jackson, didn't you? The Chicks.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I was on Capitol Records, the first couple of albums of mine, Lipstick Promises, and Every Time She Passes By, some of these songs that were big videos in the UK, and sort of national top 10 hits, and, you know, things were really rolling for me. Capitol Records was really behind me, and Garth was on my label, or I was on Garth's label, I should say, because he really kept the lights on in the building. At the time, he was bigger than
absolutely.
He was as big as the Beatles, you know. So, so yeah.
Did you you just recently revamped Lipstick Promises, haven't you? Which is done.
I did. Yes, sir, I did, and that was we did it. Well, we say recent, almost 3.5 years have rolled by already. But during the pandemic year of 2020, there wasn't much else to do. You couldn't tour, so it was kind of coming up on, I don't know, like the 20th or 25th or something anniversary of my biggest hit as an artist, Lipstick Promises. And so I wanted to kind of tip my hat to the song and re-record it in a manner that was kind of had the energy of my live tour dates and the way we play it live out on the road every night now. And so I re-recorded it, which was a bit of you want to do it justice. You don't want to when you take a hit and you re-record it, you better give it its own spin a little bit, but also pay homage to it and not try to make it an entirely different animal, right? And so you're sort of walking a fine line, but I really love the way that it turned out. The master, the mix of it is fantastic. I'm just really proud of it. And so that's we also shot a video where I incorporated the old video, one that I think many Brits are probably familiar with, the Lipstick Promises video, if they've been listening or if you're watching country music for a while. And the new video is really cool. It incorporates the old video in an old television set from the 1970s in black and white, while I'm performing the new performance in the foreground of the video. It's pretty neat.
Well, I've had lots of people come through all over our social media to say hello to you. You know about Eric Dahl in Nashville? Rock Review.
Excellent. Rock Review.
We've got Sean Green in Ireland.
Oh, Sean, hello. How are you, my man?
People in Scotland.
I'm so glad to be back in touch with you.
Well, look, listen, 20 million sales ain't bad. A Grammy nomination. Come on. Hey, this is good stuff.
Yeah, that 20 million figure is a little misleading, maybe, but that's, you know, that's like kind of like in totality, the songs, the music that on the albums that I've been associated with as either a recording artist or as a writer combined. So yeah, it's a lot of, you know, I've been fortunate, you know, to have a foot in both the artist world and the songwriting world. I do. The artists that I've always loved are ones that create their own material. So I do tend to approach my artistry that way, but also it's as a songwriter, it's an honor, you know, to anytime you're a part of somebody else's career and have a song that they want to make a part of their career is the ultimate, you know, it's really the ultimate compliment. And so, you know, Garth recorded one of my songs, and Sarah Evans had a big hit with one of my songs, and the Dixie Chicks had a song that I was a part of writing that was on a record that just went crazy. You know, like, I don't know, that record, what is it called? The Chicks, Wide Open Spaces.
Yeah.
So it was like 20, they sold like 15 million records. It's nuts. So yeah, I've been both lucky and fortunate, you know, and so I'm really grateful for all that.
George Jones, one of my heroes, George Jones.
Yeah, one of mine too. I mean, if you're a country music fan, how can you not be a fan of George Jones? You know, it's pretty much impossible. I just saw a T-shirt, a George Jones T-shirt on social media. It's like old school. It's like a picture of him kind of with his leg up, and he's got his elbow on his leg, kind of like this. Hold on. Yeah, like this. And he's smoking a cigarette with his sunglasses on, and it's just the picture of cool, you know.